Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Okay. I guess one of the reasons that I stayed in the psychology department was that I had lots of friends there. Uh, and that's how I met Russell. Russell played poker with some of the other professors, which included some from the psychology department, and eventually one of them invited us, Russell and I both, to dinner, and we met. Uh, Usually colleges don't like to employ their own graduates, but since they were just starting a new department, they used me to fill in on courses, so I usually had 2 or 3 courses to teach every semester. My feeling was that the others on the staff picked what they wanted and gave me the courses they didn't want to teach.
What did you teach?
I
what
taught
courses?
mostly techniques of interviewing and adolescent psychology and general psychology. We did have some summer seminars, and I got to teach graduate courses during those, but mostly I taught undergraduate courses.
Did you ever practice psychology? Like, did you
I
treat
practiced.
people?
After I graduated, I was hired there to continue on as a staff member and as a member of the counseling department.
Okay.
So I did college counseling.
Okay.
Then one of the professors had private offices, and I worked with him for a couple of years.
Okay.
I finally, about this time, Russell reached retirement age, and we decided, I guess he wasn't very eager about it, but we did move to Beaumont, where I worked for the MHMR, which was pretty much the mental health and retardation department of Texas. And that was pretty much a catastrophe for me. I really disliked it.
Yeah.
Then I worked as a staff psychologist for the schools at Port Arthur, which they were in the midst of their integration struggle, which again was pretty much a struggle as a job. So I was retired. I was really happy to retire when Russell decided to retire in 1976.
And you retired then too?
I retired then too.
Okay.
He was ill and didn't want to stay home by himself, so that worked out. I skipped the fact that Russell and I met, and we were married about, I guess less than a year later in Lubbock, again at the First Methodist Church there. He moved to my house, and that's where our 6 kids all grew up together. They were all about the same age. They were attending the same schools.
What year was it you got married?
We got married in 1970.
70.
His
Okay.
wife, they had been members, he and his first wife had been members of the First Methodist Church in Lubbock, but I had never met them there. I think at that time I was working in the Sunday school department, and I didn't really participate in the church activities as much as the Sunday school, but I had never met them until some of my friends introduced us. He had the 2 children, as you know, and Robert was, I think, just aghast at the idea of moving into a house with 5 girls.
So if it was 1970, then Robert would have been, wouldn't he have been?
He was born in 47. He was 13.
Then it was 1960? Was it 1960
I'm
when you got
sorry.
married?
It was
Okay.
1960
Okay.
we got married.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. And he was 13, and that I'm sure is a very difficult age for a little boy to be surrounded by 5 girls, but then he survived that tremendously well. He was a very good-looking little boy, and within a year or 2, girls were pursuing him badly, to the extent that they peeped in the windows of our house often at night.
Oh my goodness.
We would find little girls lurking everywhere.
Oh no.
And telephone calls. We had the kids' phone and our adult phone, and the kids' phone was always too busy to use. Barbara was a sweet, sweet little 6-year-old who was, I think, really happy to be in a family, and she would have loved to have been in more of a storybook family than we were. We were a bustling, busy family. Russell and I were both working, and I was studying all the time that I could. But she was about the age of my two youngest children, Terry and Beth, and they were equally happy to play with her. And for the most part, I think that she would have been the child that you thought was the very happiest in the home situation. She was very disturbed by any kind of strife. And there was strife. There was strife between the other children as they were growing up. We had 5 bedrooms, which meant Robert got a room of his own, and then the girls had to share bedrooms. And they were, one of my brother-in-law, who was around a lot, was often disturbed to come over and find that they had changed rooms since the last time he'd been there.
Oh,
but
why did they change rooms? Disagreements?
Disagreements. So they decided, well, I'd rather live with so-and-so.
Oh, that's part of being in a family.
Is it?
Yeah.
But Barbara always did particularly well in school, and the girls always complained that she was so popular and she was so pretty, and she always
as if they are not.
Well, she was a very sweet. She was the girl that I always knew when I came home from work. I would bustle through the kitchen trying to make the first starts of dinner, and Barbara was the one that was always quick to cut to the kitchen to help me, to do whatever there needed to be done. I always knew she would be right there. Whatever we were going to do, she was quick to participate and help. Later, when she became ill, almost everyone commented that she was the last one that they would have thought of having any kinds of problem.
Yeah.
So it was, and Robert, I don't think he was bothered very long by it. The only thing that ever bothered him, I think, growing up with 5 girls, was that they had 2 bathrooms, but he had to share a bathroom with the others, and that he was always complaining that they'd get in the bathroom and fix their hair for an hour before he could ever get in one. It was,
well, that's just men and women.
But he was also popular, and he started with an entirely new group of friends when he moved into my neighborhood, and there were boys. I think he's still friends.
Yeah, I know he has some friends, longtime friends that I've seen in San Diego that have come out to his awards. The one awards thing we went to for him. He had an old friend from Texas.
Jimmy, his old friend.
Probably.
That's
probably who it was. So.
But they, all through college and then up to the present, they remained good friends, and they were good, solid citizens. So that was good.
Yeah.
They were well behaved. What?
They were well behaved. Is that what you're saying?
I don't think they were any more well behaved. They never got into any serious trouble, but they were very mischievous, very active, very busy boys. They all had bicycles, and I know they got up early in the morning, and as soon as they did their chores or what they had to do, those boys were all off. Robert worked as a lifeguard in the summertime. And all the kids had chores at home, and he did his as quickly and effortlessly as possible to get up and away, just like all kids.
Yeah.
I can't remember having any problems with Robert or Barbara. I really can't remember any problem with Robert or Barbara.
How did they interact with each other when they were kids? Robert and Barbara.
Robert and Barbara. Mm-hmm. She's always admired and looked up to her big brother. Mm-hmm. She, of course, had the easiest relationship with Robert of any of the kids. Mm-hmm. Jo Carroll was an adolescent, and her interests had already gotten outside of the family by the time Robert, and so she had a sort of a kindly older sister attitude toward him. Mm-hmm. He was the same age as Cynthia, and I think that made it harder for Cynthia. Mm-hmm. I don't know really what Robert's attitude toward it was, and I don't remember Beth having any special contact, or actually Robert didn't participate with us. Every summer we went on a family vacation, and he always found some of the nails that he'd rather do, and Robert and Russell let him do it, which I think was a mistake. But then that's their life. It wasn't mine. Yeah, yeah. It ended up years later him saying that, well, he missed the trips to Mexico and to California, and I really think it would have been better if he'd gone with us. But he was really sort of apart from the other children. Yeah. I remember the trips were always long car trips. Mm-hmm. Barbara was usually happy to sit in the back seat and giggle at one thing or another. Yeah. The other children were more irritating sometimes. They were more ready to snap at each other than Barbara was always.
Yeah. I think you do see that sometimes, though, in families. The kids aren't maybe really that close growing up, but then they get closer as they get their own kids and get older.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's happened with our family, so.
Do you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
The girls have always been, even though they would have spats and be angry at each other, they've always been close together. Jo Carroll and Cynthia. Jo Carroll was started college right at the hippie period, and she was delighted to be among the first hippies. And she went into it in the Lubbock way, Lubbock is a very conservative town. Mm-hmm. And so she was not a California hippie, but she was as hippie as she could be in Lubbock. Yeah. Then Cynthia went along with her to some extent, but she's always been more conservative.
What does it mean to be a hippie?
It means that you wear disreputable clothes. Your hair is always a matter of controversy in your environment. Their skirts were either shorter or longer than the accepted. And of course there was a big thing about marijuana use in Lubbock. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that both of them did use marijuana some. I think and I think marijuana's harmful, so
Yeah. Well, a lot of people try that. Or
A lot of
test it
people
out.
try that,
So,
yeah. And I
yeah.
think it's more common as time goes by.
Yeah. Yeah. But they quit after a point, I guess.
I
Or,
don't know that Joe Carroll ever quit. I think she's still, uh, Joe Carroll is still, she's sort of an old hippie now. She's still, the thing about that group of people that's very interesting to me still is Joe Carroll and Cynthia still have many of their contacts from college. They're spread all around the country now. Mm-hmm. But on her last birthday, I think Joe Carroll had 5 old boyfriends appear for her birthday party.
Wow.
And they're all old hippies too.
That's fun.
And Cynthia still has old friends from that. They mostly live in Austin now.
Yeah. Do you think, are they okay with us knowing this? Like,
I don't know why not.
Knowing about it? Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
I don't tell Jo Carroll she's an old hippie, but that's what she is.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for for just saying what's on your mind. So,
yeah, well, I think that is, Jo Carroll is a very big-hearted, warm, loving person. She's the one that always tells me the secrets in the family that I probably would never know if she didn't come over and tell me about them. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, people open up to her.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Okay.
I don't know where I am on your outline.
Oh, we've covered a lot of it, actually.
Good.
I just wanted to see if there's anything I really, really, really wanted to ask you. So, and then if there's anything you think about too. I was curious about your courtship with Russell. Like, so you met while you were both there. Which college was it?
At Lubbock. We met while we were in Lubbock, and I was working. It was, I guess, I was in 1960. I was working on a master's then, and I finished it pretty soon after I met him, and just went ahead working at the college. I was still teaching and working towards my PhD. He was the head of the outpatient clinic at the Veterans Administration Hospital there. Not Veterans Administration facility. It wasn't a hospital. He really enjoyed his work there, I think. That they had lived in Kerrville previously, where Barbara had been born, and had enjoyed it there.
Okay. So
he enjoyed, I think, our life in Lubbock. I had friends in the neighborhood that we spent a lot of time with, and friends on the staff at the college that were good friends. We went camping with some of them. We played bridge a good deal with some of them. Went to dances a few times with some of them.
That's fun.
But it was just a friendly neighborhood for the most part. We had the most children of anybody. Most people, we had 6 children in our household, and most people had only 2. So we were sort of a challenge, probably.
Just more fun, I would think. But so, how did he propose to you? How did Russell propose to you?
I don't even remember. I don't remember. I know that, I guess we met in the summertime. And I think he proposed around Christmas, maybe.
Yeah. Was it something
and
that you just
we were married in February.
You both talked about it, maybe?
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
we talked about it because there were, if you get married with 6 children involved, there's a lot to talk about.
Yeah, there is.
He spent nearly every Christmas, he took his 2 children to, sometime during the Christmas, he took them to Kansas to visit their grandparents there. And I thought about that. Since then, I don't really know whether they wanted to go or not. It was
to Kansas.
But they stayed. They stayed in contact with their relatives there.
Yeah.
With Vaiva and then Vaiva and what's her husband's name? And Richard visited us once. And the girls, Betty's children, visited once. But we tried to keep them in touch with their family there.
Okay.
Vaiva went on a trip with Russell and I once. She was a nice lady. Did you know she died?
Did.
Huh?
I did. I went out to stay with her when I was about 20 for about a week.
Oh, did you?
I did. And she took me to the farms in Kansas.
Oh, really?
Old family farms. And I think Glenn went with us too.
Oh, really?
And yeah, so I stayed with her for a while when she was in her apartment in Wichita. She lived in an apartment in Wichita. And I stayed there with her before I was married. So.
Well, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did.
Well, I've never met Glenn. I know I met Betty.
Yeah, I know Betty. So, yeah, Glenn is a really nice man, a gentle man. That's how he was.
Yeah.
So, he was nice. Okay.